You are listening to the Food Means Business podcast, which features the personal stories and secret ingredients behind what it's like to abandon your day job to start a CPG food and beverage business. I'm Janaba Johnson-Jones, former marketing executive turned entrepreneur and founder of food business incubator Hudson Kitchen. Join our community of fellow food business owners and subject matter experts to learn and laugh with us as we explore a startup world that's a little more culinary and a lot less corporate these days. Kailey, welcome to the Food Means Business podcast. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So before we hear all about your company, Sacred Serve, we'd love to hear your story. Tell us how you went from employee to founder.
Yeah, what an interesting story that was. I think it kind of unfolded over three-ish years, but I started working in consulting. I was actually in real estate consulting at one of the big four accounting firms. So very much corporate kind of lifestyle. And I think the gateway for me was I took a couple sabbaticals. So I was very interested in yoga and meditation. So went abroad to India to really kind of further my studies in that. And I think that kind of opened the door to just being exposed to people living very different lifestyles, kind of getting more immersed in things that were more interesting to me than the corporate track. And yeah, that kind of planted the seed. And from there, I went on to do a bunch of different things ultimately before starting Sacred Serve.
I want to hear about a couple of those other things, but so there was a sabbatical part of your benefits with the
Yes.
company you're working for?
Yes. And so I am so grateful to them for that. I actually wound up taking two sabbaticals as well as scaling back my hours to like a 70% utilization is what it was called. So I think I had worked for about 3 or 4 years before I tried to negotiate for that first sabbatical. And it was a 30-day unpaid, time away. And I think the biggest thing that I realized during that time was those benefits are available to us at that company, but no one can really afford to take them because what happens is our pay is based on what's called utilization, which is how many hours a day you're charging against a client. And so if you take these 30 days of no client charges, at the end of the year, your performance is going to look really bad. And so people can't really afford to take that time. What happened for me was I got lucky and I got staffed on a really intensive summer project in New York, which is typically my company's slow season. So I had a busy winter and then got heavily staffed in the summer, which meant I was way overutilized and could definitely afford to take those 30 days. So it was unique, but I was able to do it.
That's so great. I have to imagine some people, even if they could make it work, were a little bit afraid to make it work because, you're kind of like out of sight, out of mind in the office,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, I definitely think there was the culture of FaceTime back then. And I was certainly guilty of staying till 7, even though I didn't have work to do, just to be the last one to leave or definitely not leave before my partner. So I'm definitely glad to not be in those days anymore. But absolutely, I'm sure that if I was probably a little bit more focused on that career path, I probably would have had a harder time taking time away.
So what did you do next?
So yeah, took that sabbatical, came back, continued to work at this corporate job. Of course, when I left for those 30 days, I was like, this is opening my whole world. I never want to go back to that job. I'm absolutely not going to go back to that job. And then, of course, not only was there that just financial pressure of wanting to kind of stay at this company, but it was also rather prestigious job based on what I had gotten straight from college. So there was also this kind of social pressure of, are you sure? Because a lot of people are looking at you like you got this great job and you really just kind of want to, what would be considered throw it all away. So yes, worked for another year, then had the itch, negotiated another sabbatical, went away for about 2 months this time. And that was kind of the nail in the coffin for me. That's when I came back and ultimately worked really hard to negotiate a part-time schedule to kind of get myself
Yeah.
one foot out the door.
Amazing. So after the part-time schedule, so when did you become a founder? Walk
Yeah,
me through.
so part-time schedule, what I was doing was I went back to school for nutrition. So when I was on that last sabbatical is when I really kind of had this profound experience. So I was going back to school for nutrition with the goal of becoming a health coach. So that was the first thing I did as a founder. I started my own health coaching practice and with the goal of moving back to Indonesia, living in Bali. So that's what I did. I was health coaching remotely, picked up a couple other side jobs and moved to Bali where I was coaching people one-on-one. That's kind of where I discovered this main ingredient that we use for Sacred Serve now. And ultimately what I learned through health coaching was this is awesome. It's creating a lot of really heavy impact on the people I'm working with, but it's not really scalable. And the impact is so one-on-one. So how do I impact more people? And I figured, creating a product that they could take into their own homes would be an easier way to reach more. And so that's kind of when that all started to shift for me.
So why nutrition and why ice cream?
Yeah. So when I was on that second sabbatical, I kind of put myself through a 2 week, what's like a raw food cleanse, essentially. I stayed on this health resort in Bali. And within those 2 weeks, I noticed that my asthma and allergies went away. And these were conditions that I had been on steroid inhalers and allergy shots every week, of course. And so what I realized was that it actually was the food I had been eating my whole life that was giving me these conditions and kind of keeping me locked in this weird, unhealthy cycle. And I hadn't really been presented with that information before. No doctor had ever asked about my diet. So that's when I kind of decided, look, this feels really powerful to me. This made me feel so much different. How can I share this with more people? So that's when I started to think, why didn't I go back to school for nutrition? And then ultimately, ice cream came into play because one of my other friends is a food founder. He also lived in Bali for quite some time. And one of these big ingredients over there is what's called young coconut meat, becoming a little bit more popular now, but really wasn't available in the States. And what I saw chefs doing over there was working with it in all types of ways, ultimately as like a dairy replacement. And so it was more opportunistic in the sense of I have a dairy sensitivity. What can I do? Can I target a really dairy, sugar, really unhealthy category at the time and try and do it in a more nutrient dense way to ultimately prove you can eat healthy in every category. You don't have to be making these sacrifices. So yeah, that was really the ingredient that kind of led to what can we do with this?
Wow. So I have to say, like, my daughter is a vegetarian, and so when she has like just like you, like asthma and allergies, she
Hmm.
stopped eating meat like maybe 4 years ago, and her skin, like her eczema, cleared up. Like
Yeah.
life was better,
Yeah.
and it was interesting going to the doctor and saying to an allergist and saying, "Hey, she stopped eating meat." And this is what happened, and they were like surprised, and I'm like, I don't know why. And then and they're like, it's not in the journals. And I'm like, okay, so just
Exactly.
because no one wrote a
Yeah.
paper about it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that it doesn't exist.
Exactly. And this whole thing has set me on such a journey to recognize, like you're saying, be your own advocate. That's what I taught when I was a health coach. You have to touch base with yourself. You really do kind of have to push out the noise and listen to what is working for you. And I've seen that so often with meat and especially dairy. Like you're saying, eczema goes away, skin issues go away. Ultimately, your body is just reacting to, let's call it dairy. This is for
Yeah.
me reacting to that internally. So it couldn't possibly fight off external allergens. It was just causing a lot of issues. So once you remove that, your body just becomes ultimately better at handling anything. So I went from full panel allergies on my back to
Yeah.
absolutely none. And you're right. Every doctor said, good for you. Don't know what you did.
And you're like, it's the food. You
Yeah,
don't
it's the
understand.
food, guys.
All right. All
Right.
right. So you decide to launch this company. Give me the lay of the land. Were you still living in Bali, or had you moved back to the States, or like tell me,
Yes.
give me the
So I had moved to Bali with the goal of being there for years. I said I'm moving my life, had a going away party. This is where I'm going. But within a handful of months of living there, my grandparents actually got really sick. So I wound
Mhm.
up coming home. And once I was home, there was also kind of that recognition of, wow, like how important it is to be around family. And
Yeah.
so that's when I kind of shifted focus and thought, what can I do now that I'm in Chicago that would be as exciting? I was living in Bali. That was very exciting. So what could be exciting here? And the thought of starting a company was ultimately that. So that was kind of the impetus of health coaching brought me so far. I've learned a lot through that. And now I really want to focus on a product. And now that I'm home and have the resources and, the facilities to do that, I think now is the time.
So where did you go to when you first got started? Where'd you start your business?
Good question. It's crazy to think back to this. I started in
Of
my kitchen for sure with a little ice cream
course.
maker. My friend is a raw food chef, so we were kind of working together on these. And ultimately, the first step I made was to buy a soft serve machine from some manufacturer in China. My
Mhm.
business plan at the time was create this kind of liquid mix and sell it to anyone that has a soft serve machine as a non-dairy option. There was a lot of soft serve going on in Chicago. quickly learned that this non-dairy formulation does not run through soft serve machines very well, if at all. It freezes up in different ways. So, I look back, I think I spent $5,000 on that piece of equipment, which to me
Wow.
was, this is the most I'm ever investing in this company. This is my big, like, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And, within 5 days, it didn't work. So I'm like, oh no. So pivoted in that moment to thinking about packing hard ice cream as opposed to the soft serve and kind of selling in pints. And so I really quickly pivoted to looking at a US made hard ice cream machine.
Mhm.
And there was, a really good manufacturer here down in Florida, but that investment was about 12,000, I think. So
Oh,
again, it was
yeah.
just kind of these day by day learnings of like, oh my gosh, and now what are we millions of dollars of investment in? And it's hilarious to think about really how naive I was back then.
You're like, "Oh, I don't need I'm good. I don't
Yes.
need this
Five
instead."
all in. I should make a profit. This will be great.
No problem. So did you rent a space initially, or did you your own facility initially, or were
Yes.
you in sharing with someone else? How did that work?
Initially, I asked, there was a little health food shop in Chicago, and I asked to use they had like a back kitchen where they were manufacturing some little to go items. And so because that was certified by the city, I was allowed to make product in there and sell it at her store. So that was kind of like the first move I did, was make it in her back, sell it at her store, see how it sells, get feedback and all of that. Within a couple months, though, I had found this up and coming facility way down on the south side of Chicago. One of my friends was a kombucha maker and he had a space in there. So I asked him, can I share, can I have 300 square feet in your little area to kind of make this product? Because again, I knew it was just certified with the state and I would be able to then sell at farmers markets and different things. So started sharing space with him, did farmers markets. And I think within a year, I had put my name on the list and ultimately started to build out our own separate space
Nice.
in that building.
Nice. That's
Mhm.
amazing. So you're still self-manufacturing, or are you at a co-packer right now?
We are at a co-packer right now. This has been a really interesting journey for us. We did self-manufacture for 6 years, which was really intense, mainly for me to have no experience in manufacturing or food and to not only start a company, but to start a manufacturing company on top of a sales and marketing company. So learned a lot, but really the main reason for that is we use this base ingredient of young coconut meat. And that is fundamentally, from a nutritional standpoint, very different than coconut milk, but also from like a physical standpoint. Most co-packers just want liquids that they can throw in a tank and spin it through their, machinery. For us, there was this huge and heavy pre-processing that was required with that. So it took me, years to not only figure out the industrial equipment required to process this at scale, raise the $60,000 needed to get that equipment, start testing it. And then on top of that, then became the journey of finding a co-man that was willing to absorb this equipment, learn the process, add this on, because it is a big deal. So that was, yeah, a really hard part of the journey.
So let's talk about the packaging, because your packaging is completely sustainable, it's recyclable, and that didn't exist before,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah. Very interesting thing I learned 7 years ago for starting this was, of course, for me, our mission is to make the product as healthy as possible for human consumption. But that equation is so inherently tied to the health of the planet. You can't, get nutrient dense food if it's coming from depleted soil and all of this. So I was like, what are we packaging this in? Is it glass? What is the most sustainable version? And at the time, nothing existed. That's when I first learned that all of these pints you see on shelves look like they're just paper, but they're all lined with plastic as this moisture barrier. Same with coffee cups and everything that you probably see thrown in a
Yeah.
recycling bin is not, and it's ruining
Mhm.
everything. So, yeah, that was kind of my first understanding that this was such a big problem and was really shocked to see really no one talking about it. And so, yeah, flash forward 4 or 5 years, I've always just been on the track and finally connected with an innovator out of the UK who created a substitute for this plastic. So it's really their innovation that's this moisture barrier that's water based. So when you apply that to our paperboard, there's no plastic involved, and that allows it to be both recyclable as well as compostable.
That is amazing, because I think I'm of the camp that thought, "Oh, this is recyclable, I'm just gonna
Right.
put it in the recycling bin." Yeah, had no
Yeah.
idea.
And it's such a problem too, because beyond just your pint not being recyclable, everyone's throwing it in the bins, and then the recycling companies are not going to pull out the unrecycled. They're just going to say, "Oh, the whole thing is now going to go to the
Right.
trash." So it's like such a compounding problem that people aren't aware of, and beyond that, recycling isn't even a solution either. Like then if we really want to take it deep, so make it compostable. Stop putting plastic in the market. Period. That's kind of where I'm at with all of this. Is if recycling's not really working and things aren't breaking down in the environment, stop putting those, ingredients out there in the first place.
Right.
So that's what we hope to do here.
So let's talk about flavors. So walk me through the types of flavors that you have, kind of how you came up and how you came up with them.
Yeah, our first flavor was meant to be vanilla. It's our salted caramel flavor, and that is by far our most popular. It's the simplest formulation, but we use coconut sugar to sweeten everything, and that inherently has this really rich kind of caramel taste. And so when we tried to make a vanilla, it just tasted like caramel. So we added extra salt and said, "Here's our salted
This is it.
caramel." People ask us for vanilla every day. We will probably launch it, but it will just have a little hint. But yeah, so we have salted caramel, we have a matcha mint. So all of our flavors, we do try and upgrade with a superfood, adaptogen, or something that's just going to be really inherently healthy for the body. The mint chip has matcha in there for the antioxidants. It's also got this peppermint essential oil. Usually things are flavored with a mint extract. This peppermint essential oil is really healing to the gut, really calming to the gut. And so we love using things like that. We also have a chai flavor that has saffron in it. A lot of people aren't familiar with saffron, or if they are, it's with paella or some type of like savory dish. So it's fun to kind of give them that floral option. Saffron is really incredible from a medicinal standpoint. Something like 33 milligrams a day, they say is as effective as an antidepressant. So
Wow.
really cool research behind that. And I think ultimately with our product, it's never to give you the full, dose of saffron or whatever it is, but it's kind of to invite you in to learn more. Seeing these ingredients in an ice cream category is very unique. So my hope would be, while we can't put specific claims on the pack like that saffron, my hope is that by highlighting saffron, it's making people question, like, why are they doing that? If this is,
Right.
a healthy company, what is saffron? Why are they putting it in here? So, we love to have those conversations. Our chocolate has a mushroom extract in there, chaga mushroom, as well as maca and the cacao. And, the cacao in combination with those two helps the absorption of the mushroom. So it's all kind of a combination thing. But yeah, they're nostalgic flavors with a little bit of a twist, mint, chocolate, caramel, chai, trying to give them the basics with some element of an upgrade there.
I'm curious, because it is a plant-based product, did you have to do any type of education around the product and kind of why you created the product with the consumer? I'm just curious to like who your target
Yeah.
audience is. And I
Yeah.
understand there's people that are vegan, but then there's also people that just enjoy plant-based
Mhm,
products. I'm just
mhm.
curious as to how you thought about your target
Yeah, it's
audience.
a good question. I think for me, because I created this product out of a pain point for myself, which was just I have such a restrictive diet in the sense that I have a lot of food sensitivities and was really just tired of eating things that made me feel like crap afterward. So that was inherently the first goal around this product, is just to use real whole food ingredients so that when people eat it, they feel energized. They're not getting this like massive crash, especially with the dairy-based dairy and sugar and all of that just really throws you down. So that was kind of the first goal, but I think the main education around it has ultimately been around the coconut source as well as our sweetener source. There's a lot of keto, sugar-free, low-calorie marketed products, and my biggest mission is to push against those and really educate around the quality of ingredients. We don't really talk about our calories, we don't
Mm.
talk about our fat. We say, look at these ingredients. This is where they came from. This is what they do for your body. And when you eat like that, you will lose weight, you will feel better, you will drop inflammation. So yeah, that's really the marketing push. Is just this is the healthiest product that you can get in this indulgent category. If you want to feel better after you eat, if you want to actually nourish your body, add this to your, list of foods that you're eating.
Early in our conversation, you mentioned that you were making your product in a kitchen and then selling it actually at the retail store there. Can you talk a little bit about your journey into like getting into like larger grocery stores as
Yeah.
well?
So starting off, right before starting this company, I worked for my friend who helped me with these recipes initially. He had another company. So I was doing some part-time sales for him. So I kind of understood what it's like to cold call a retailer, ask to speak with their frozen buyer, kind of pitch and sell. I understood like the sell sheets we needed. So I initially, with our product, started by just selling to like 30 independent stores around Chicago. Half of them I already had relationships with from the other company. So it was like, hey, started my own thing. I think it would sell great. And these little co-ops have no buying, they
Right.
can bring a product in tomorrow if they like you. So we did that. And I was making the product, delivering the product, coordinating with all of this. And that was obviously a mess and got me into like a major bottleneck situation. But that's kind of what I did for the first year is I saw how it went, how were consumers responding, how was this flow working, and then ultimately saw that it was working, kind of pulled out a market, raised a little bit of friends and family money, did a rebrand and launched into Whole Foods. And that was in 2019, just into one like 30 doors at Whole Foods. The journey to Whole Foods was tough. It's very tough. Emailed a ton of time, pitch, pitch, pitch. You got to find the buyer, get their email. They're never going to respond to you. How do you get in front of them? So I had a friend at the time who had a sparkling tea product that was already in Whole Foods. And so he was like, I love your product. I believe in it. I have a review coming up with my Whole Foods buyer to just talk about new products. Why don't you just come with me to that meeting and bring your product? So I did. I crashed his meeting. I'm like, here we
Amazing.
are. Here's my ice cream, like it or not. Got 20 minutes with the buyer, sat down. He's like, I get it. I love what you're doing. I see it. And then ultimately we kind of took it from there. And then they were very communicative in the sense of, how many stores do you want to launch? Like we're going to launch you into one region, but the region is 78 doors. Do you want 78? Do you want 5?
Right.
This was still a couple years ago and a lot has changed with Whole Foods, but at the time it was still very local supplier focused. And I remember saying, I'll take the 30 doors, which was all of Illinois and Wisconsin, which is where I could deliver.
Mhm.
I was like, if people told me to do 5, I was like, no, I'm going to do the 30. We're going to push it. We're going to see how it goes. And that was that.
So, are there any plans for other product lines underneath Sacred Serve?
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot. We plan on launching a couple more flavors to really just have a core 6. But in terms of line extensions, I would like to continue to play in the frozen space. I think it's really unique for us that we can launch nutrient dense products without stabilizers and different processing because it can sit in its raw form in the freezer set. So I think there's a lot of cool things we can do there. And I do want to introduce more of this young coconut meat in various product form. Um, I am seeing it across the store with some other brands, which is really like in drinkable smoothies and purees and different things like that. So yeah, lots of ideas. There's obviously the low hanging fruit, which is just novelties, little like popsicles or cups or something like that.
Right.
But I think there's other cool things we can do like coffee creamers or smoothie boosters. Who's to say? But yeah, a little young coconut meat with some of these adaptogens or superfoods somehow meshed in to give people like an easy everyday boost is what I would hope to deliver.
Got it. So let's talk about your team because obviously we don't do these things alone, right?
Sure.
You
Yeah,
don't get
exactly.
into Whole Foods and you're just by yourself. So like talk a little bit about the people that you kind of have brought on along the way to help you.
Yeah, it's been an interesting kind of non-linear journey, is what I would say. I really bootstrapped this, admittedly, too long. That's something I talk about with some of my other founder friends. But because of that, I was very restrained from a team perspective. Early on, the first person I hired was someone to make the product. So she was working part-time, making all the product, but I was still running deliveries. Anyways, early enough, the first idea was to get myself out of production. After that, I hired a sales guy to kind of help grow our presence. Today, it's myself, a fractional CEO, essentially, our accounting team, and then our co-packers. So a lot of our work is outsourced. And then we also have a PR team. So between us, it is quite manageable, but it's really been a process of getting the right systems in place so that it is very controlled and manageable in that way. So yeah, I've kind of gone through a lot of fluctuations. I've had a full-time marketing person before. I've had a full-time production manager and logistics coordinator. Then we outsourced to the co-man, got rid of some of them. So yeah, right now it's really myself and my fractional CEO, which has proven very effective for what we need right now
Yeah.
at this stage.
It's so funny, like, you look at other people's businesses and you're like, "Okay, I should have that, or I should do
Hmm.
that." But really, you have to sit down and figure out, like, what's gonna be right for
Yep.
you, and it's just all about trial and error, really.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I definitely fell prey to trying to do it all early on, almost thinking that I needed to, like, what a miss. But yeah, it has been very interesting to kind of learn over the last 5 years what are my strengths and real sweet spots, and ultimately where and how can I get myself in those areas for the most amount of time.
Right. So, what has entrepreneurship taught you about yourself?
Great question. This has been like the biggest therapy journey, I would say.
Mhm.
I can imagine it's a lot like having your first kid. It just
Yeah.
brings up like you're so stressed, you're in these vulnerable positions. I have learned that I'm a pretty solid risk taker
Yeah.
and that I really can have a vision. This is
Yeah.
something I thought was kind of natural for people. I thought, yeah, obviously, like I can see it, but even the more and more I do this, the more I engage with people where I'm like, "Oh, you can't see that." And they're like, "No, this is scary. I don't think that," even things not related to the company, like starting like an investment project or something. People just they can't vision it. Like I'm buying land and putting a tiny house on it,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, "No, I can't you see like here I'm like have a little floor plan done in Excel." They're like, "This does not I need to see like a rendering or something."
Yeah.
So I love setting that vision and putting the pieces in place to build it. What I don't love is running it once it's in place. So that's what I've learned through this journey is that I have a lot of energy, a lot of fire for getting ideas off the ground and new products as well, or even a new retailer. That initial spark to motivate people and get things done and see it. But I've learned that I need to be better about hiring and putting people in place to then manage that infrastructure go forward. Because for me, the excitement's gone. Yes. And then I'm ready for something next.
I totally get it. So, what do you do to take care of yourself?
Like we talked about just
Yeah.
before, daily walks. I had mentioned I just moved to Arizona, and the goal really was to be outside as much as possible. So I think really for me, any type of outdoor activity, even just sitting outside, is really helpful to take care of myself and just slow down and kind of get that space. I think over the last couple years, I was so busy and not giving myself that space that I
Yeah.
wasn't even like self reflecting and like internalizing everything that was happening. So it just felt like a very weird autopilot and not very effective in my decision making. So just finding space as much as possible right now has seemed to be the biggest way to kind of take care of myself.
It's so interesting, like, we're always like, "Go, go, go," as entrepreneurs, but really taking the time, like, for me, like, I'll just take time and just, like, sit on the couch and kinda zone out for a bit, and, like, we really do need it because it gives you this opportunity to think about yourself kinda or your and your family, whatever, and what's going on in the business outside of just trying to go, 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 and do, do, do all the time. So I think
Right.
that opportunity to reflect is really important. At Hudson Kitchen, we have what we call a money bell, that we ring when people are celebrating something important. It could be someone's employee celebrating their paycheck and or someone celebrating like a new retail partner or something like that. What are you celebrating right now?
We are celebrating our launch with Whole Foods nationwide.
That is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So good. But Kaylee, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being on the podcast. Would love for you to tell everyone where they can find out more about you and more about Sacred Serve.
Yes, our website is sacredserve.com. We are on Instagram at sacredserve, and you can find us at all Whole Foods nationwide.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The Food Means Business podcast was produced by Hudson Kitchen. It is recorded at the studio at Kearney Point and mixed and edited by Wild Home Podcasting. Our theme song is by Damian DeSandes, and I'm your host, Janaba Johnson-Jones. Follow Hudson Kitchen on Instagram at The Hudson Kitchen, and to get food business bites right in your inbox, sign up for our newsletter at thehudsonkitchen.com/newsletter. Listen, follow, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. Until next time.